And but we're going to call our Wednesday, June 7th, 2023 Commission to order, and it looks like we've got the invocation by Commissioner Perry and the Pledge of Allegiance given by the Auditor Charlene Larson. We'll go to there.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before Thee this time grateful for the blessings that Thou hast blessed us with here in Box Elder County, for the moisture we received this last year, and for the tempering the climate as the spring came on us, that we didn't suffer the drought, or didn't suffer flooding any worse than it was. We're grateful for the service that is provided to the people of this county from the employees that serve here, and for all those who work and live here in Box Elder County and all that they do to contribute to the betterment of this community. And we pray that Thou will bless and watch over those who are serving in our military and those who are serving in our fire and law enforcement services, especially the officer who was shot, who resides here in our community, and that he'll be able to heal and recover and return to work. We pray that Thy Spirit will be with us to help us to do the things we need to this night and be able to take care of the people's business. And we say this in His name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 And repeat the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm still pretty proud that we're able to still do those two things to remind us. I remember growing up doing the pledge and the prayer in school, and it's a shame we still don't do it. So that ought to make the paper. So approve the minutes from 05/30/2023.
Motion to approve the minutes from May 30th of 2023.
I'll second it.
I got a motion by Commissioner Perry, second by Commissioner Bingham. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Administrative review reports, future agenda items. Anybody got anything? I don't think anything's on or off. Marta, are we good with everything?
As far as I know.
As far as you know? You got anything on the future?
Just a report about what I did yesterday. Went out and went on a tour of Yost and Lynn with the CRM group and reviewed water improvements and range improvements, and it was a good day.
They do a lot of good work.
A lot of good work out there, yeah.
Who asked me, one of the state guys come and asked me about juniper. And they said, do you have juniper in your area? I'm like, yeah, we have juniper in our area. So they've got a company that's coming up here looking to try to make it into methane. So,
Seems like a perfect use for it.
well,
It's a big weed.
there's no use for it any other way.
It's a big weed.
So, yeah, hopefully they'll get in touch with us and make us part of that. So that's awesome. You got anything?
No.
And I think I'm good for this session, so we'll get right into it. We're going to, we're talking about ARPA, emergency management issues. I think we're good, right? We're good, Kevin? No problem? Emergency manager Mark, he's asleep already in the back. We're good? Okay. ARPA, Charlene, we still have nothing new. Let's put it on the next agenda, so where we actually look at what's left, and let's go through kind of the stuff, because we, have 6 more months before we have to have it appropriated? And is it by the end of 2024?
2024.
I thought it had to be by 2024.
No, it has to be appropriated, I think, by December 31st, 2024, but I'll check that.
Okay. Well, then we got some time then, but we still probably ought to take a look and see. And maybe with the Biden bucks, the LAPT, whatever, also, because we haven't
Done anything with that?
appropriated any of that, right? So bring that too and see how much we have in that fund. Anything else you guys think of?
Maybe just one thing that I learned yesterday. There was a gal from the BLM office in Salt Lake. Remember when we was at UAC conference? They talked about that new pending change and use of BLM land. And I asked her about it, and she had no knowledge of it at all. And the time for that public comment period is ending here about the third week
Right.
of June.
Right.
And I think we probably ought to figure out a way to get
Make
involved with
comments.
that, make some comments. Because it's not gonna change the fact that, that we're still gonna have to grade the roads and all that without any business return on those properties. We need to probably comment, so,
If you can get us some verbiage
okay.
and we can send it through, honestly, we should be able to, we make comment on that kind of stuff all the time, so maybe that's something that Sean Milne can help you with since it affects all 3 counties. Oh, he just walked in.
Does Sean know how to spell ranch or farm? I'm
Yes,
just
he
kidding. No,
came from-
just kidding.
Oh, man, that's wicked.
That's
talking
just
ab- yeah.
teasing, Sean, you know.
We're just talking about the BLM new rule that needs to be in about 3 weeks, so get with Commissioner Bingham and let's see what we can do, because all 3 counties probably should do it. We've all got
Yeah.
grazing between us, Cash and Rich, so, right?
Will you still speak to me after that joke? I'm just curious. Okay, all right.
I mean,
Well,
with a gut like this, I definitely know where it comes from.
He knows where his food comes from. Okay. If nothing else, let's, presentation of Bear River Mental Health. Come on up, you guys. Jordan?
Bear River Health,
Bear River Health. Did I say Bear River Basketball? Did I say Bear River what?
Bear River Health Department.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, appreciate being here. We'll just take a few minutes. This is a statutory requirement that we have to come
You gotta pull that mic up to you.
and report
There you go.
annually to the counties with regards to this. And so I want to be clear, this is really your report. If there's things in here that you'd like to see in future iterations, please let us know. We want to make sure that it's a meaningful report. Real quick, just wanted to identify, we have our Board of Health. Commissioner Perry serves on that. He's not pictured there because he wasn't on the board for the annual report that this is. We actually have quite a bit of change in the Board of Health. There's 4 positions pictured on here that are not there. We won't have Sarah Sinclair on there. She resigned. Dr. Ed Red resigned. Jeff Scott obviously didn't run. And James Swink resigned. So we've got new board membership. All those, except for Commissioner Perry's seat, are in Cache County, so those are running through the Cache County Council. The only other thing I'm going to go over real quickly with you, the only thing I want to point out on the budget, the department's doing fine financially. If you look at that 28% and go down and look at it, it's called Emergency Preparedness and Public Health Response. That's how we categorized the COVID-19 funding that we received that came through the federal government. Just for context, we've been just around 500 to 550,000 in that category pre-pandemic. We anticipate going back down to that. So we have quite a bit. That won't completely occur until July of 2024. But after that, we will see that. We do anticipate that to go back down. So our budget will not be quite as high as it has been for the last couple of years. And with that, Esti's the one that's worked with our team to put this together. So I'm going to let her present the rest of her work.
All right. That, all right?
Sorry, I couldn't see you, so I'm
okay.
moving my stuff.
A little shorter than Jordan. Okay, I'm just going to go over the fold-out section right at the very beginning. That's just the glance at some of the services that we provided during 2022. Just speak quickly about a few of these things that kind of stand out, maybe some significant increases or decreases. On the second row, you'll see an increase of 24% on routine food site inspections. District-wide, that looks like a huge increase, but truly that's going back to pre-pandemic levels. So as though it looks like it's huge, we do hope that number will continue to increase as we do have a lot of new food establishments throughout the entire district, but we expect that will just continue to increase but knowing that we probably won't see a 24% increase next year. Halfway through that row, it does talk about the individual infants served in the WIC program, which is the Women, Infant, Children program. You familiar with that at the Bear River Health Department? Okay. This has seen a slight decrease. We've seen that statewide, even
Really?
federally. But I do want to note that we are now seeing an increase because of inflation and a lot of different reasons. So this number we expect to be going up next year as we report on that. One other thing that I will touch on here, because it is kind of a hot topic here in all of our counties, is the mental health section. We have seen an increase of 17% with individuals that are provided mental health services at the Bear River Health Department. We find that a big success. We feel like we are kind of filling a gap between those with Medicaid that are served with Bear River Mental Health and those that go to private providers. So we hope and really do put some effort into trying to let the community know that behavioral health services, mental health services is something that we offer at the Bear River Health Department to the community. Individuals provided substance abuse treatment, we did see a decrease.
So I was,
That has actually continually dropped since 2015 when the JRA bill was put into place that kind of decriminalized substance abuse charges. And it's really hard for us to be able to enforce too much. So we continue to see that happen.
none of the commissioners in the state are really happy about that anyway, so I'd like to see it go back to the place where we can actually feel like we're doing things and just not getting people. I'm sure the sheriff will agree with me. We're arresting them, shaking, slap them on the hands and turn them back on the street.
So would our therapists.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. That also is shown over there in the row right below it. Behavioral health treatment completion rate is the same reason that has gone down as well. It's just not as much, they don't have as much teeth.
But yet substance
them there.
abuse has risen 67%. What do you
Interesting.
think?
The numbers show
What-
that, right?
No, it says that individuals tested for substance abuse disorders is up 67%. Change from last year. So, yeah, wonder why that is. Okay, move on.
Okay. Unless you have anything else on this page, I'm just going to keep moving on since we only have a few minutes. As that page flips over, you'll be able to see some of our staff doing their work and the things that they do for the health department. There's just some photos there. You have a message from Jordan on page number 2. Jordan's talked to you already about the budget. Let's move into some of the goals that we always like to take our strategic goals and go ahead and select one item that we can report on so we don't have too much narrative, but kind of a highlight of the year that we actually that we pick for each goal. So our goal number 1 is the healthiest people, that we will become, the people of the Bear River Health District will be among the healthiest in the state. This year, the one that we chose to focus on was a partnership that we had with Utah State University that allowed us to increase our collection of data so that we could identify gaps and ensure that everyone had equitable access to care, regardless of the group of population that we were looking at. And hopefully, the overall goal is to decrease disparities that exist in our community. That's a continual process. It was called the Institutional Review Board. It's a Utah State University board, but they have worked with us and partnered with us to kind of begin that process. So that was kind of a big success for us. In the photo, you can see a few of our community health workers working with the Marshallese population, and that was a group that we specifically worked with the IRB group with. Over on the next page, you'll see some of the leading causes of death, talking about the healthiest people. So you can see kind of where we're trending district-wide in comparison to the state of Utah. Last year, you'll see COVID jumped from being number 5 last year. It is now number 3, which we would kind of expect to see. Alzheimer's disease basically swapped out COVID-19. It was number 3 last year. Kidney disease is on the rise. It replaced influenza and pneumonia from the year before. So we see just kind of a lot of just the same things, just moving a little bit up and down there. Do you want to talk anything about the county health brigades? You guys are still sitting strong in number 11 for Box Elder County. It's where you've been for the past few years. Almost the top third of the state, so kudos to Box Elder County. Our goal number 2 is a great organization. Our big highlight for 2022 was that we became an accredited health department. That was a huge success for us. As you probably all know, we spent quite a few years getting to that point, and we were awarded that on March 15th. Our goal number 3 is community partners. In this section, we we talk a lot about our community health workers. If you'll turn the page over, you'll see that during 2022, we had some community health workers that were phenomenal, and they work directly with making sure that we can connect people to social service agencies that can help address food insecurity, as well as opportunities to access to healthcare and things like that. That was during 2022. Just so you do know, a lot of these individuals were funded with COVID money, and this money, now we're down to 4. Our goal number 4 is our increased access to services and how we can do that, with how we can better serve the community with that. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our community health improvement plan, but it is a plan that kind of guides us in decisions with health for our health district. And this last year, they convened to start that plan again. It's every 5 years that occurs. And the number one concern and priority, I guess I should say, that came from that CHIP meeting was the increasing need to address mental health. So that one way that we actually did that this year is we had joined a platform that's called Unite Us, and now it's called Unite Utah. It was Unite Us, but it is now a part of our website, and people can just go on and fill out a form, and it goes to our community health workers. They then can contact the individuals and help direct them to services that they may need in the community. It's a pretty helpful form, but this CHIP has subcommittees, and so there's a mental health subcommittee and other things that were other priorities, and it will meet yearly at least, or sometimes quarterly, just depending on what is needed. So there is a meeting on August 1st. If you have any interest in joining the CHIP, we would be happy to have you. Just reach out to us, and we'll send you an invitation.
I'd send it out to all of us, then we can make the decision if we can get there or not.
Perfect. Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Can I mention one thing about this CHIP and kind of a direction that the health department is looking at? Our job is to assess what the health is and then work in our community, find solutions. And we are having some really tough conversations internally to say, even if we have the resource, we might not be the best entity in the community. And we have an ethical obligation. The public health model says our job is to assure that people can have access to things that support their health. And if we're not the best suited, but we have, say, a pot of money, we need to figure out where that's going to be most active in our community. And that is a little bit of a paradigm shift for some of our staff to have that conversation and say, what does that mean? Well, it means our job is to really focus on the health of our population, not on the retention of positions. And so that mental health, I can tell you, Bear River Health Department is not going to solve the mental health problem. And neither is Bear River Mental Health. We've got to figure out, how do we create a network in our community that supports mental health in our community, and work on that. And so we are having those conversations, and it's a little bit different in talking about assurance rather than service delivery. And that's what we're focused on with this CHIP.
So can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So do you coordinate with other offices in the county to deal with mental health? For example, in our extension office, April Litchford deals with mental health, most particularly with farmers and ranchers. Is there any communication between her office and your office concerning that, or
I don't know,
you don't know?
but I can go back and check. What was her name?
Her name is April Litchford.
Litchford, yeah,
She works for USU,
Litchfield?
Litchford.
Litchford.
It's USU Extension?
Yeah, she's, her
Okay.
office is
Upstairs.
in this building, yeah.
I know we do work with
I want to say
USU
Holly
Extension.
brought that up to me.
We did a video for them 2 years ago. The commissioners did an outreach for mental health for not only farmers and ranchers, but for everybody in Box Elder County. So I'm pretty sure that they were working with these guys, because I thought they said you would help them do the money. So, but I would check on it again. Jordan, any other thing I was going to ask you, about something that we don't get in that cross-reference of things. Can you give me a thing of growth versus all those statistics? Because when I look at the growth that's happening in like Box Elder, I'd like to see what all those statistics are doing, because maybe, I wouldn't say blame it on the growth, but, you know, are these things going up in different avenues because of the growth? I think
Yeah, so you're talking about which ones?
Are you looking
the fold out,
The fold out?
the fold out.
Okay,
yeah. So I just like to see you put that in as one of your markers
Great.
to
Yeah.
say, you know, growth. And so when I became a commissioner, I think we were at 46.8, so, you know, about 47,000. Now it's saying we're almost 60,000. I just kind of wondering what that's doing to the stress of that, so. And I think it's interesting that we're all basically across the board now at household average income, 65, 67, 67. That was pretty interesting, because cash had been kicking our butts for all the years I've been here. And then even the education part of it is interesting too, so. Just some of the things that I'd point out.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, we don't have anything else, so.
You guys got any questions?
No, appreciate all you
Well,
do.
I was gonna say, the only thing I want to point out, just for the group, is our 2 appointees from Box Elder County are doing a great job. Kevin Hall and Cade Palmer both serve on the board and do a great job. They're there at most meetings and engaged in part of that. And then the other question I was gonna ask, when will the construction of our health department here in Brigham City be done?
Yeah, that one's a little bit further behind than the cash one for a variety of reasons. It was a bigger project. It was combining of the two buildings. I think we'll probably be done at the end of July, but that keeps
Of this year? Kidding.
Yeah.
And then you will, and then we've got
Any other construction?
the big flu vaccination you're gonna offer in, is it October? Is that-
Yep, October 4th and 5th, we're offering a mass vaccination clinic. We're continuing to try to exercise for mass vaccination or mass distribution of prophylaxis. And we're utilizing the annual flu vaccine for us to be able to do that. And so we will have an event on the 4th and the 5th, both at the Brigham office and at the Logan office, where individuals can drive up. We're in the process of working on dialing in our scheduling and all that, so if people want to, they can do that. But once again, my biggest thing is I don't care where people get their vaccines. We're just wanting people to maybe support us so we can be prepared if we ever need to.
Well, and this is, if I'm not mistaken, the convenience of this one would be an opportunity because you will have it set up where they could actually pull up in their car. Some of those who can't get out of their car, this would actually be a benefit for some of our elderly folks in our community, would not have to go into a physical building. They could schedule, pull up, and get their flu
Yep.
vaccination right in there. And yeah, family with kids, small kids. So it's something that, yeah, we'll want to get back to us, and we'll publicize it as a county as we get into September, so.
It's awesome. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Am I gonna see you next week?
Do you want to?
Just kidding. Beth, sure.
Hide out then.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Grab your chair. Sure, I don't know if there's another one up there, unless you want to stand. I might see you better if you're standing.
That's rude.
No.
Rude.
So thank you, Commissioners. I'm Beth Holbrook, a Utah Transit Authority trustee representing Box Elder County. And I am joined by Shul Bishop, who is our Director of Government Affairs, and he's handing out some handouts for you both. I want to be respectful of your time, and so I came with just a couple of items to discuss, and then, of course, if there's always questions, I am happy to answer them. The first thing I wanted to talk about is you'll notice that we are continuing to acquire right-of-way. That's this handout right here. We have 127 acres so far. The 23 properties, some of them larger than others. Again, just for reference, UTA does not do eminent domain. We simply find willing sellers and work with them accordingly. One of the other things I wanted to point out is that this is a 50-foot right-of-way acquisition adjacent to the Union Pacific Rail line that is coming through here and the Utah-Idaho Central Railroad corridor. That corridor piece was 2.75 miles, and that is already owned by UTA. The other slight different change is not actually on here yet, but we have been working with Brigham City. They're having some master plan changes to some of their street formations. And so we're trying to work with them to figure out strategies to navigate through that. We think that will be successful. They're definitely looking at how they can be strategic in their master plan as well. So unless there's any questions about that, I'll move on to the next topic. I did want to talk about the fourth quarter and the second quarter strategies that we've been working on for the past few years. And I did want to thank all the commissioners for your willingness to be so negotiable and work with UTA. We just could not be more happy. And I'll talk about some of the past stuff. One of the things that we recently invested in is a $250,000 for the Historic Orchard Parkway Trail. That's going to be going, starts in Willard and, Perry, thank you very much, and goes through that area. And Perry City has that funding, and they're going to be paying for that as they need to do. And that was part of the discussions and negotiations that we did on the second quarter to allow for any transit nexus discussion to have funding from that as well. And we're going to continue to purchase right-of-way with the fourth quarter. Moving forward, it will be at a slightly slower pace because the amount will be slightly less, but we will be very diligent in making sure that we are continuing to pursue that as an option. The other thing I wanted to talk about is we do have the grand opening of the OGX, which is our Bus Rapid Transit, and that is in Ogden. It goes from the Ogden Frontrunner Station to Weber State University. And one of the things that is really valuable about this is it obviously is accessing a university. It's also an electric system, and so you will receive an invitation to go to the grand opening and see how this will work. We think that this will be impactful not just for Ogden downtown, but also for the surrounding communities that are accessing Ogden. As you know, we often try to plan our additional service routes from the bus side to connect with our Frontrunner system, and a lot of times they do that at the intermodal hub. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and again, let me know if there's any questions, is our strategic goals and objectives. And I handed out this handout to you as well on this, and you can take your time to go through this. It's basically color coordinated, and we're really talking about the strategies.
Glad you dumbed it down for me this time. Thank you.
The crayons are extra.
The crayons. I like that.
It's really just talking about how we're continuing to do connectivity pieces. And I'm going to diverge here. This is not actually in here, but one of the things, and Commissioner Perry is actually on the UEOC committee, and that's with the state of Utah. And one of the key components, and there's probably a lot, but the things that we think are really applicable are the housing and affordability issues, as well as water and distribution. And what we are trying to do is align as much as possible. As we all know, and I think you just articulated about the average revenue per household each year in each of those counties. For Box Elder, what we do when we look at our three southern cities is we try to figure out how we can increase that connectivity piece because affordability is a key problem. I mean, when you look at the houses out in Willard, they're not significantly lower than Weber County area. I think we are all in the situation of how do we get workers, how do we get people to get good affordable housing? And one of the things that we look at is transportation is also a budget household cost structure. And how can we help to alleviate some of those costs? And that's what our 2022 to 2030 strategic plan is designed to do. In addition to that, we are going to be coming out with our 5-year service plan that's going to talk about the increases of what we're looking at service-wise down the road. And just as a really quick reminder, and I didn't want to get too much into the weeds, but we do look at things, not just the buses, but also like the on-demand service, which is very similar to an Uber and Lyft model. Again, that connectivity piece, especially when you're looking at navigating seniors or people with ADA needs of that sort, trying to get them to where they need to go within the communities. So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to take a look at this, and please ask us any questions Shul is actually the mastermind. He does have the crayons to this, so there you go.
So you know what I'm gonna ask you,
Yeah.
10 acres. When's the fast track bus and stuff, park and ride gonna happen over by Walmart?
Oh, that is a negotiation. You are welcome. We cannot do anything until we get that road decision made.
Okay.
Part of that is a Perry, and part of it's Brigham City. And it's their navigations and negotiations that they're doing with potential developers that is really kind of morphing that into a discussion. I know that you and I have had discussions offline, and we are happy to try to navigate that. Right now, we are currently leasing a space from the school district, and we would love to put it in our facility. Just for reference, we have 10 acres in Brigham City, just west of the Walmart. However, we can't build a private road. So that private developer on their property has to do that, and then we will be happy to connect to it and go
Are
from
you
there.
aware Brigham City just got a deal with Young Automotive Group to build a car dealership there?
That's what I was wondering if you'd
I
been
didn't know
aware
if you
of.
were
So-
aware of that or not, but
They might have a deal, but we purchased the 10 acres, including an easement access, and so any discussions about real estate is obviously very,
okay.
you look at that, you would obviously try to keep things close to the vest, but generally speaking, that's a negotiation, if I can say it like that.
Can you talk to those two entities and tell them that maybe we can help with that corridor preservation fund? Then we could maybe help with that negotiation, because this needs to get done sooner than later. So
We would,
if we can do the, I mean, honestly, if we can get the road, they can worry about the developers and everything else, and then we'll make the developers pay us back. So we just need to get the road done.
I'd be happy to let them know that there's some fluidity in the discussions. I obviously can't control that, but I would be happy to let them know. I know that it's been a discussion item for several years, and I want to make sure that we're addressing it. Again, we have to make sure that the private sector does their piece before we can do ours.
Well, I just know that there's been some concern about where people park to get to their parking rides and to parking illegally and parking in different places to get. We just need a way to be able to get this done so people don't have to worry about getting tickets and, like you said, coming back and forth and carpooling and all that kind of stuff. So that's something we probably ought to make sure happens.
Yeah, we will talk. I will let Brigham City and Perry City know that you guys can look at options to help them to navigate this.
Okay. Shul, you're not gonna say anything?
No, I did notice when the health department talked about COVID, that the two of you started hacking
coughing.
away. So,
Exactly.
We're allergic to mics. I should never have a mic in front of me. I get allergic.
You'll notice that I'm staying down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed you discussed last week, or 2 weeks ago, whatever, they were talking about pie in the sky stuff with the Boise to Vegas
Oh,
train.
yes.
How, that would be federal, I'm assuming they're going after, how would that affect this route? I mean, are they gonna come on top of the commuter rail to do that, or what would you do as far as to make that work?
That's a great question. You're right, it is federal. It's specifically to Amtrak.
Right,
And the original, there were original like Desert Wind and Desert something else, I can't remember, that were original routes to Amtrak, and they ended in the early 80s, late 70s, something along that. It went from Boise to Salt Lake City, and then Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. And Amtrak is looking to expand in both of these areas, and it's in north-south connectivity from a lot of key regional cities that 20 years ago didn't have the level of growth that they're seeing today. And they received initial funding to do more studies. And how that would be potentially impactful is currently today, Amtrak stops in Salt Lake City, usually at 11 p.m. They ride on the Union Pacific rail, excuse me. And they are obviously subject to Union Pacific's timelines. So for instance, they're supposed to be in at Salt Lake City at 11 p.m. to pick up passengers and head on over to California. However, they can experience 6-10-hour delays, pretty significant. And if there were an opportunity to do that, we would offer at least our 90-mile corridor that we currently use for our front runner system, our commuter rail. And we would offer them access to that through this dense area. And that can help them to bypass a lot of the Union Pacific freight rail that is obviously heavier and as you get into the city itself. And that can allow them to have more flexibility, and then that connectivity can be more improved than could it ever been in the past. At this point, it is definitely a long-range plan. It's actually under the control of UDOT. UDOT does the state rail plan every year. And so they're the ones who are negotiating the funding pieces to that, along with Amtrak and Boise and Las Vegas. So, but we anticipate that if they were to do anything, it would probably be in the long-range 20-year plan.
Right.
Cool.
Thank you. Great question.
Any other questions? Thanks, you guys. Thanks for
Thank-
coming up. Good
Thank
to see
you.
Appreciate it.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. It looks like we're coming up to animal control. Kev, Sheriff, do you want to come up on?
Kevin Potter, Sheriff. This is on the agenda because behind the scenes, there's discussions going on, and I think we wanted to get on the record about what our situation is. We've historically used an agreement with Tremont and Brigham's animal shelters, but they're full, and Lee and I had a meeting with them, and I think our number one preference would all be, as they're adding beds, that we somehow add into that, and that seems like an obvious choice. But if for some reason that falls through, we're gonna have to start doing something on our own. So it's a lot of, and we also, I guess I should mention, there's a lot of other little cities, Beaver City, Deweyville, Snowyville, too, that would all be interested in these discussions, and as we decide what to do. But I think that's the purpose of this, is just get on the record of these discussions are going on and going to be expensive, but no matter which one we do down the road.
Chrissy, will you make sure that this gets on the next COG meeting? We'll talk about it, so we'll have to call Gina Marble and get on that. Scott's not here, but just call Gina, let's get on the next COG and let's go talk to them about, like you said, who's willing to put in what, and maybe what it would cost to be able to, if it's one-time funding, I can see something with the Biden Bucks Plus happening with that in that area. But if it's ongoing funding, then that could be a problem. So, and that's the problem, is that some of the times we're coming down with an animal that's been called on and there's no room at the inn. So I don't know, do we end up taking them to Ogden? Do we take them, what happens when there's no room at the inn? Sorry.
They've promised us, if we have something like a rabid dog, an aggressive dog, they will make arrangements to make sure we don't have to handle that on our own. But a lot of times, finding people in the cities a family, and that'll take care of it till they can find an owner, until a bed happens. So we're trying to be creative. The worst case scenarios, they said we'll put a dog in there if it's a rabbit or something. But the rest of them, we're just doing our best to try to find an owner.
Do we have room down there to put anything in? That's your complex? Do we have room anywhere in that arena to put in a complex? Say if the worst case scenario, these two other entities decide that they're not going to contract out, where would this go? How much would it cost? I think those discussions probably ought to be ahead of us, so we can say that if there comes a time that we have to drop, this kind of money, that it's not staring us in the face, and we actually can go in it with wide eyes open. So,
Yeah.
I've been getting a ton of complaints in the last 2 years about dogs running around and stuff like that in the county. It used to be not that big of a problem because everybody knew whose dogs was what, but
So part of the problem is, even in these rural communities, they're changing their ordinances so people can have more dogs. And so instead of a dog or two, now there are 3, and sometimes even, they have kennel licenses where they have 10 or 15 dogs, and it's getting to be an issue.
To answer your question, we do have room, but a lot of that, it was built for an expansion in the future for the jail, too. So I think we'd have to look at, make sure we leave room to do both we need both in the future. If we decide to put it there, right, we got to make sure it doesn't interfere with the future pod. But yeah, we probably, I mean, have to look at it, but yeah.
Maybe I can ask you something, Sheriff. What's the I mean, I know we don't have a lot of inmates that can be on work crews out in the public, but is there a possibility of using inmates to maybe to allow them? I know some cook, but could we use inmates to maybe take care of these animals if we were to put a pod attached to the sheriff's office where they could actually take care of the maintenance of those animals? Is that something that's even a possibility to look at?
Yes.
Okay.
It's things have changed since JRI and COVID, and you guys know that a lot of the people that used to work on work crews are just out now, not in custody anymore. And they would have been the best candidates for a position like that.
Right.
And some of the ones that we used to be able to send work crews around the county. The ones we have left can't leave the property, but.
But this may be a solution, is those who can't leave the property but are safe enough to be around animals, we might be able to allow them, maybe there's even some therapy that they get from being around the animals, I don't know. So I'm just throwing this out as a way to keep our costs down if we decide to go down that road. I think that may be a way to keep the cost as minimal as possible for the county, so.
So maybe in the next month or so, maybe get one of your guys on it and just see if they can find something of how much something like that would cost for us to have to do it. And then that would give us a better idea when we go to the COG and, if Brigham City says, hey, we need $100,000 to build new beds, then maybe that's something we can do and then move forward for the next however many years. So.
And I'll reach out to, we have one of the organizations tied with UAC that does some things with it, is the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary.
Okay.
So I'm gonna reach out to them because they have a national reach, and I'll ask them to look at any other sheriff's departments or any other police departments anywhere that use possible inmates as part of their animal control situation as far as the intake.
Now I
upkeep,
can't
et cetera.
remember the guy's name from Salt Lake City. Sean, what's his name? Salt Lake City councilman that does what's it called?
Best Friends Animal.
Best
Sanctuary.
Friends Animal Shelter. You can't remember his name? Man, if you can't remember it, I've got a clue. But we were talking about almost like a pod to where you could take them, and then within a couple of days, they would come up and take them.
And there is a place that has cats out in Corinne that is doing that, but dogs, they're not taking on dogs at this point, so.
Okay.
But anyway,
Okay.
we'll keep that in mind, so.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Cooperative fire agreement. I think that's
Yep.
you guys.
Kevin.
Kevin, Jenica.
Yeah, it's the Forest Service, yeah. This is the cooperative Forest Service agreement that we received. We need to get signed, yes. You want to, but yeah, well, the money's gonna end up going to you, so we just need to make sure that everybody understands.
We have something else up here too.
Oh, okay.
So this cooperative agreement is
stay
between
here.
us and Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands, and then we need to sign that agreement today. That's why we had to wait till this meeting
Oh,
to
that's
have it
right.
done.
Have it done before a certain
So,
date.
yeah, we have to have it signed. And just, do you want to explain what we'll make a motion to do this in just a second. We want to explain what this will do for us and what we use this money for?
So the way I understand this, it's all new to me, so bear with me. This is basically the insurance policy that the state gives us that we fund mitigation, fire prevention, and fire preparedness, and X amount of dollars for the budget year that as long as we do that and we get a great big fire, we don't get the bill for it.
Yep.
As long as we partake of this and
Yeah.
spend it correctly.
He switched this about 5 years ago and made us do all these things to be able to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent massive fires.
Yes.
So,
We don't get on the Box Elder County is not on the hook for that kind
Right.
of cost.
'Cause if we don't do it, then we have a fire.
and this has saved us, I'm trying to think.
Millions of acres and.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, Mark, how many of them fires when we had it up by Washakie, how many millions of, probably 500,000 acres in 2 fires?
Yeah, I've not tracked those.
But I'll bet it's been at least, and I know the one fire was close to 5 million and the other was like 7 million, so,
Yeah, the minute you call aircraft,
yeah.
you're jumping dollars.
Yeah, well, and the one out to Grouse Creek was way above that, so,
Yeah, and we had 2 right here prior to me on,
yep.
just over there in, Portage.
So I'd make a motion that we adopt Cooperative Agreement 2344 between Box Elder County and the Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands.
Second it?
I've got a motion by Commissioner Perry and a second by Commissioner Bingham. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you can stay here for the next one.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I don't.
You want,
Not sure where we're at.
Jenica? I
We're
think
just
you-
gonna go to that national engine.
Okay, we'll go down to
Oh.
agenda.
I don't know. While he's here, let's skip it.
Me?
I figure while he's here, we'll do all three of them for him. I don't know why we did all three of them for him.
Until we get to the nitty gritty and then it's yours.
Okay,
They're down there. Okay. You
You're up.
put my name on.
national engine.
National Engine, Kevin Lloyd, Box Elder Fire Marshal.
Okay.
We're looking to get approval to deploy a wildland team nationally for wildfires throughout the whole year, throughout the season. Anytime there's a good fire, anywhere in the country, and we're able to go, we'll go. Keeping Box Elder number one, as many people as I can here for our fires that we have and our mitigation work that we need. But this would just be on top of that.
We tried to do this how many years ago, Jenica? 8 or 9 years ago.
Used to do it.
Yeah. So I think it's a great idea to be able to make money for not only Box Elder County, but for the people and keep them, you know, because when you look at the people that want to come in and volunteer or whatever it is, they're looking to try to do that. So if we can keep that type of people here, and like you said, and I can't remember what the money was the last time we talked about.
It's changed. It's a lot of money, but it'll also put engine bosses, which are hard to find.
Hard
to get. It'll hopefully flood Box Elder with engine bosses.
Yep.
Now, if we have scheduled or qualified engine bosses on any of our fires, it's even just that much better for the county fires.
We used to have to actually, in some cases, have engine bosses come out here from Weber, Utah County. I think one was from Wyoming, one fire.
Big fire will get
Because,
Washington, Oregon.
yeah, we haven't had engine bosses here to be able to deploy, so kudos to you guys to bringing this on, so.
So I have a question. So when you're talking about funding, is this an hourly fee? Is it a mile fee? Is it a day fee?
Hourly fee, depending on the type of vehicle that we will run. Right now, we have what's called a Type 6 engine. It's basically one of the brush trucks you see around here. It's considered Type 6. We can put 2 people on it. It has to be one qualified engine boss and then a red card. And we can charge anywhere from, what was it, 174 an hour?
Yeah, to 199.
So 199, 174 an hour to 199 for 16 hours per day.
So who pays it?
State, or
state.
the state. that we're-
Wherever you're going to?
Yeah.
So just so you guys are aware, in a 14-day deployment, if they are deployed for all 14 days, the county would make just under $22,000 per deployment for 2 staff members to go.
But more important, I mean, yeah, that's nice, but really the most important is the training these folks get.
Right.
That they bring home to Box Elder County that keeps us even safer.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
we don't
'cause-
have right now.
And we'll be training squad bosses as well.
Right.
So that's kind of an in-between between the engine boss and the firefighter. So our intent is to build our program here by doing the fires somewhere else, because every firefighter has to be trained on scene of a fire.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to make sure that we're paying our bills and not subsidizing somebody else.
Oh, no. That's why we looked at it a couple of years ago, because we were talking about doing 2 or 3. And during the summer, we could make
Are we still leasing any equipment
100,000,
now?
100,000 a month.
We still lease that equipment to fire if necessary? Like,
We can.
Yeah, we can. We
Sorry,
haven't
okay.
for a while.
Yeah, I
That's
know in the
kind, that's
past
kind
we've
of
done
what this
that.
is the lease out to, but now we're gonna
This would
send
be the truck,
firefighters.
this would be firefighters and truck.
And trucks.
Or instead of just like bulldozer or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion and we approve the wildland fire, the National Engine Wildland Fire.
Second.
I got a motion by Commissioner Bingham, second by Commissioner Perry. All in favor?
Aye.
I should have never seen Jeff Scott's picture in that thing you showed me, because now I'm screwed up again. I keep trying to call these Hadfield and Scott.
Is there going to be a contract or anything with that?
A contract?
I just wondered if I need to number it or anything.
It's just an SOP and
Okay. Thanks, Marna. Okay, Procter & Gamble signs. Big D, you want to come up? you want to just say your name?
Darren
and
McFarland.
Tell them why we're here.
We are here. There's some signs that were installed, no parking signs, across the street from Procter and Gamble. The parking, I guess, has been affecting Bear River Canal's right of way and canal banks. Some of the semis, maybe Trevor.
Would you like me to speak to
Well, let's talk about it for a minute. So it come to our attention that the deputies called us and said that there are some parking signs and they were supposed to address the issue, is what we were told. And we had no idea. So Darren called me to see if I okayed any parking signs. I said, not that I know of. So then we called the deputies, and so we had no idea what parking signs was where and where the deputies were supposed to go. So did you want to say something? Was that kind of the gist of it?
I got a call as well and indicated that we really can't issue citations unless there's an ordinance behind the citation. that
Okay.
says no parking allowed.
And so that's why it came up on our plate, because we had no idea what was going on. So we took out some people and did some like aerials, and I don't know if you have that. Do you have that copy of that?
Yeah.
You have a copy of that? Looks like we intersect by like 30 feet.
This is your right of way.
So your right of way goes into our road, and our right of way goes to the edge of the canal. So that's what we're here for, is just to see, because I guess we need to see if what is legal, what is not. So that's the problem. If somebody runs over one of those signs and get hurt, is it going to be our problem or your guys' problem, since you guys put in the signs? And I don't think our deputies are going to do anything without an ordinance from us to stop people from parking on that. So we're just here to try to see why we're at this impasse, but we would have liked to have probably known that we were going to put in signs, if that would have been.
Would you like me to speak now?
Yeah, if you want to.
Trevor Nelson, General Manager, Bear River Canal Company. So the signs were put in at the request of the Sheriff's Department throughout the county. There's areas where the canal, obviously it's the canal road within the canal easement for canal purposes, that have been abused by ATVers for the most part. Particularly on the Hammond East Canal, there's individuals who use it for mountain access, which the property owners, because we are only easement holders on that canal, have indicated they're not appreciative of those people using that as access to the mountain. And so as we've been dealing with these, the damage that's been caused to the canal roads, the Sheriff's Department asked us to, if we would like the easement enforced for trespassing, that we put up no parking or no trespassing signs. And so in this particular instance, the strip of ground that you see in the graphic, what happens is it's right next to the entrance to Procter and Gamble, and so trucks will stage there sometimes for 6 to 12 hours. And the problem is that the canal right there, it's perched, and so we call it a raised canal, and it inundates or soaks the dirt area between the surface of the road and the canal itself, making it quite soft. So you're putting a 105,000-pound semi on a soil surface that compacts. And as you can see from the edge there, it's starting to work its way down. It's compressing down. You can also see there's not much freeboard in that canal, meaning space before it comes up and out of the canal. We also have a head gate that you can see downstream from the sign that delivers to a service pond across the road there. And so we're worried about crush there, where that pipe goes underneath the highway. That was definitely a piece of infrastructure we're interested in protecting. And so there were several operational reasons why.
So that pipe heads east?
It does.
To Procter and Gamble?
It parallels Procter and Gamble and goes to a storage facility that's between the Central and East Canal.
Okay.
The other issue that we've been dealing with is littering. This is an area of the canal system that services several thousand acres of high-valued onions downstream. Onions require a special certification, and having cigarette butts and trash in the water is a guaranteed way to fail your certification. We also have a trash rack further downstream that goes into the spill, so when we have excess water, we've been pulling significant amounts of trash out of that. So for us, it seemed to make operational sense to place the signs, and we did so because the deputies in the past have asked that it be posted so that it was easier to enforce. Our intention wasn't to not coordinate with the roads department or to step on any toes. We were just following what we've done in other areas. We should have shown more prudence, though, where this is adjacent to a county road, and so we do apologize. I've coordinated, though, with the road supervisor here, as well as talked with the county attorney about the situation, and we are operating in an overlapping easement. And 71-1-14 of the Utah Code clearly states that damage to a water conveyance facility is a criminal offense and can be a felony. And so we are just trying to keep that facility operational. Another thing to consider is in 73-1, there's specific rules or obligations that a canal operator has to take into account with trying to prevent water getting on a road. Bear River Canal Company does a pretty good job of making sure that doesn't happen, but on occasion, probably once or twice a year, that does happen, and we're trying to limit those situations. So that was our justification for doing that, and in discussions with the attorney of the county, it seemed like the best way to move this forward was to request that this area be designated as a no parking area, being that the purpose of the county and the canal company align in the fact that it's not great to have semis compressing this area. Another thing is they sometimes get too close to the canal, and there have been wreckers out there on several occasions pulling semis back out of the canal. And again, it's a bad situation because really it's probably 2% of the people causing 90% of the problem. So we've got to do something different from an operational standpoint.
So I have a question. Has anybody talked to Procter & Gamble?
Yeah. We're actually in discussions right now to be able to take another side off the other side, but they were waiting until it got dry enough to be able to take turnouts. That was their biggest problem, that they were doing it. We've actually had them talk to the truck drivers. We've had them talk to everybody. We were waiting until it gets dry enough, and they were going to start putting pullouts on the other side of the road.
I was going to say, it seems like to me this is their problem. It shouldn't be ours.
Yeah.
And we did inform Procter & Gamble before we put the signs up, although we probably should have talked to them a little bit earlier than we did. Now, the canal company's fine if there needs to be some time for Procter & Gamble to make other arrangements. If the signs can stay there, just not enforced, say till the end of the summer. Because actually a lot of damage occurs in the winter because we get soak from the snow. And that's actually where we're seeing more compression than even during the operating season.
And if I know the truck drivers that go to Procter & Gamble, a sign that's going perpendicular to the road, they're not going to see it anyway. They're just going to park there and say they don't see the sign, so you probably ought to put it sideways across on both sides.
We can go ahead and do that. I noticed that as well. I'll have my staff flip them the other direction if that's all right by the roads department.
Yeah, the only other problem I see is just the plain fact of the signage. Is that the proper width and things off of signage that we have to be able to?
I'd have to research with the MUTCD to make sure the sign base and pole's correct. I don't know about the size of sign.
That's the biggest problem I have, is that something might be able to not be enforced for the plain fact that it's not in the right spot. And if somebody comes off that and has an accident, then we're having to talk about liability.
It's more than the placement of the sign. There's got to be an ordinance that says you can't park there, or
Okay.
state law. If you can't just put a sign up and start issuing citations. There's got to be something passed by the legislative body that says no parking here.
That's what I was.
My understanding is the county right of way, you can park in the county right of way. There's nothing countywide that says you can't park in the county right of way. So there's nothing in place right now that would say we could start enforcing that.
Okay.
I think the only non-parking situation is snow removal.
That's the only one we have at the current time.
So does that mean we need to make this recommendation to the planning commission to review that?
Or have the
Road department.
just saying that we don't want parking here and then adopt an ordinance.
We'll have to adopt an ordinance.
Where you're gonna put a no parking zone in? Is that what you're thinking? Because I mean, I'm looking at the sign, I'm thinking in my mind historically that the signpost is not a big deal because it looks like it's designed similar to their delineator posts that we use on the side of the roadways and that. So it's probably not a big deal for crashes. The biggest thing I'm looking at sign-wise from historical purposes in my life is I'm not sure it's enforceable because it looks like a private property, no parking sign, which we can't enforce, law enforcement can't do that without a code. We may act, if I remember right, the parking signs we used in Logan Canyon had to have, I think we even had to have a code on there that indicated what those know. So we probably need to do some research if we're gonna have this, if there's gonna be any enforcement of this from a public standpoint. We need to probably do something code-wise and then put something so that the signs are appropriate to do the proper enforcement.
We had to come in and actually do a 45-mile-an-hour sign, 4 months ago? We had to come in and drop because the cars and trucks were going too fast. So we had to do an ordinance and drop it to 45 for a temporary time until Procter & Gamble got their stuff taken care of on the opposite side of the road. So, because it was becoming a nightmare with people coming to and from work and trucks being on both sides of the road. And I think now I think they're done hauling gravel for a bit until that compacts, and then they'll come back and take it off and put it back,
I
so,
think they've got another phase that will start sometime this year.
yes.
In the future plan, I met with them, they do have off-highway staging in the plan and a deceleration lane. It's definitely gonna be a betterment, but it's
You need to put that microphone in front of
it's
you.
not something that's
Chris
gonna
is
happen in the next 6 months.
Somebody's gonna yell at me.
Yeah, so Procter & Gamble does have it in the plans.
And then their biggest problem is they're just
They also
shifting CEOs. So Tommy's leaving and somebody else is coming, so we were trying to get a hold of whoever's coming next to be able to make sure this is a thing that they want to get done, so.
So, I know this is a dumb question. Is the sign working?
No,
Well, there's been parking sporadic all the time, so some days there's not a lot of parking and some days there is. When we were out there with the deputy, a truck had parked in front of it.
that's what I'm saying, you can't see it.
And so I think we probably need to get the ordinance established and signage that states what the ordinance is for the deputies part of it. And then probably put more, if we decide that we want to designate that a no parking. Put probably more signage up than we got.
So, I know I'm not the brightest star in the sky, but, obviously Procter & Gamble is somebody's dispatching these trucks.
Oh,
to
yeah.
There should
They,
be.
they go to Google, it goes to Google.
Well, but even Google.
Ask
has a
Curtis
line.
Marble and everybody down on the other side. We have pulled so many trucks out of there, and we've done everything we can to map, to call, to do everything.
But
We've,
somebody somewhere is saying, hey, come and pick up this load. They ought to have a
And we have-
sentence that says no parking on the
we
road.
have done it all. I'm telling you, but when you get people that don't speak English or that are listening to Google,
Oh, I know.
and they're watching things on there, they don't know what north, south, east, or west. And the last one we took out of that hayfield, he didn't have any idea. We haven't had any since we put the big round sign with a truck and a red thing around it with no trucks. And then we actually have something that says turn left again, and back on the sign. State wasn't gonna let us put signs on Procter & Gamble pointing towards Procter & Gamble. And we finally got that done after, I think, the 14th or 15th truck. So, yeah.
I've had people in my hayfields many times.
It's a
with the
mess.
same problem.
Okay, so it sounds like we know what's marching orders then?
Just for clarification, what would you like us to do? Would you like us to just switch those signs for now, take them down? We didn't mean to step on toes. We just were trying to fix
Yeah.
an operational issue.
Yep. Legally, what do you want to do, Steve?
It's up to you guys. I think the canal company has a right to protect its easement.
Yeah.
It's complicated here because they overlap each other.
And I don't mind the signs being there as long as they're under code. But the problem is, like you said, if they think it's personal property and it's a county road and they're a county resident, then we get calls saying, hey, I got a ticket for parking in personal
Well,
property.
they need to understand, I mean, we're not gonna enforce it until we have a code in
Yeah,
place.
at this point, there shouldn't be any citations.
So
There's no
the sign's gonna be there. If the sign stays, I don't care if the sign stays personally unless there's a reason county roads or somebody else thinks the sign can stay. We just can't do anything about it until we get an ordinance in place. And at that point, we maybe that's where, if you guys wanna cooperate and work with us, maybe if this signage post works, we have Darren work with you guys and say, leave your post there and we'll mount the proper signs to that post. So maybe there's a way we can cooperate and put this thing
And
together.
probably
to-
more of them. But like I said, Procter and Gamble should be across the street here in the next
The other
little
thing that
while.
should be brought up is where they're placed. It appears to me, this hasn't been surveyed, correct, Aaron? You're just, these marks on here are just your estimate.
Yeah, that's not correct survey by any
But
means.
it-
There's survey hubs on the other side of the road I use to measure, and I just researched Friday on easements.
It
We
appears
both
that
have a
this-
66-foot wide easement there.
And it looks like this sign is either right, just barely on the edge of the counties or off the edge of the
Yeah.
right of way, so.
It's very close to where our right-of-way would be anyway. It's about 3 feet shy of you would normally post it, but to post it there is pretty close to the canal bank also.
Okay. I think that's what we're
I think
at.
they're okay there. I don't see a road department issue with them.
I'd still move them.
If you were gonna put the sign in from the county roads department, if you were gonna put, would that be about where you'd wanna put it at? Or if you're gonna put them in about that point between the canal and the roadway?
I mean, I'll work with the canal company on location, but if we could move them any further west, it may help.
The other advantage, if you move them a little further east, it makes it hard for people to park if they're in the middle of that.
Yeah. but
If you
then
want to put a
people
parking
hit
sign
it.
and keep people from parking there, especially with semis, you put in several of these no parking signs right in the middle of that dirt, and that makes it very difficult unless they run the sign over for them to
Well,
park.
but then like I
That
said,
might be the,
we have
We have to figure out.
they got a state
Yeah.
code that we have to go by on feet so far off, so.
Right.
And
Okay.
The last question, I guess, would be for the attorney of the county. So can a motion be made today?
We're
to
just
Make
gonna-
that a no parking zone?
No.
And then,
No, there has to be a formal ordinance. It has to be noticed.
Oh, okay.
It's just a law, has to be put in place.
Yeah.
saying you can't park here. So it's a bit of a process.
But we can put the wheels in order to make that happen, so, which we just did.
Yep.
Okay, thanks you guys. Appreciate you coming and taking care of that.
Okay.
Cody, you know.
Cody Elam, Box Elder County Building Official. How's that, Stan?
I loved it.
This is hopefully our last interlocal agreement with the last city that we're covering for the retirement of Steve Bench, Fielding City. And like
I thought we were breaking out and going into Idaho. You have such a good gig going.
I feel like we do that a bit. Just it's quicker going out to Grouse Creek that way. So, but this should be the last one. So.
Okay. I don't have any questions. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the interlocal cooperative agreement 2345 for inspection and plan reviews between Box Elder County and Fielding City.
Second?
I got a motion by Commissioner Perry, a second by Commissioner Bingham. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you do. I think we're up to Chad. Sorry, man. You should have give Chrissy a Diet Coke or something and
I asked about it. It's alphabetical. Recorder's always at the end.
Oh, man.
is that a state law?
Okay.
Let's come up
Chad
with a new name
Montgomery,
for your, let's come up
Box
with a new
Elder
name for
County
your
Recorder.
office.
What's that?
Let's come up with a new name for your office. It starts with an A. Come on.
AAA
Gotta beat the
Recorder's
assessor out
Office.
somehow, so.
So this is the, yeah, starts with a P.
There you go.
I got the new language already typed up, so I have a copy for each of you.
I seen it in the email.
Is this what they corrected language?
Yes, this is the correct version.
Oh, good.
I have one for you as well. So this just is the corrected language for the ordinance that we have that needs to be passed before July 1st, creating the County Recorder Appeal Authority based on House Bill 351. So ordinance 581. Do you have any questions about it?
Nope. I don't. I think we hashed this enough out at UAC to know what's
Yep.
going on.
We've heard plenty. So with that, I'd make a motion to adopt ordinance 581, enacting an county recorder appeal authority ordinance.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Perry, second by Commissioner Bingham. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks for being willing to serve on the board, too.
Thank you.
Has anybody got a no closed session? See, my motion worked. No closed session? Hallelujah. Oh, about.
Just
Forgot to give those
sign
back.
on here, that's awesome. That easy.
Well, we just had a commission last week.
I know.
Send this one on down to Steve.
Oh, was I supposed to send that
Yeah,
one
you're
down to
supposed to
Steve?
send that one down for him to sign.
I probably signed where he was supposed.
I'd go down to Steve, send that down. There's a spot for you, one for him.
Sorry, he threw that on top of me when I was signing it, so. Well, as soon as we sign two more things, I'd entertain a motion.
Okay, sign.
Do you want us to get a bigger
signed.
line for you? That's gonna happen one of these days, Timmy. Oh, I know. Like a thief in the night. Oh. Man, I'm sure glad I got these Stanley mugs that were engraved with my name.
Okay, warrants are done.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bingham, second by Commissioner Perry. All in favor? Aye. Yay.